I'm in charge of the household, and my rules are final. If you don't follow them, we'll get a divorce. Even though my husband was cheating on me, he still tried to boss me around. Why should I do everything he says? If that's how it's going to be, let's just get a divorce. I put all the loans in his name so he would see how much I contributed to our life together. My name is Belle. I'm 36 years old and work as a systems engineer. I've been married to my husband Derek for 6 years. We met through work because my company hired his company for some projects. When I was working for his company as a temp, he was very nice to me. We started hanging out outside of work, dated for a while, and then he proposed. I said yes. When I got married, I left my job at the company. Working as an engineer was very demanding and stressful, and the pay wasn't great. I was worried that if I kept working like that, I wouldn't have enough time for my husband, and our relationship would suffer. So I decided to become a freelancer. This way, I could have more time for household chores and to be with my husband. At first, freelancing didn't make much money, but I had engineering experience. Gradually, I got more clients and my income grew. I was surprised at how quickly things improved and was thankful for my husband's financial support during that time. I worked hard on housework, even though cooking wasn't my strong point. I used recipe books to try different meals to keep my husband happy. "Thanks for cooking and cleaning. It really helps me out," he said. His praise made me feel good. In the beginning, we respected each other and had a happy life. But after a few years, my husband suddenly suggested, "Isn't it time for us to get a new house?" Huh? A new house? I was shocked when my husband brought it up. He's not the type to save money. "Well, shouldn't we save a bit more first?" I asked. "What are you talking about? I earn a good income, don't I?" Yeah, but we haven't had any financial issues since we got married," I said, even though I wanted to mention that it was because of my income too. Although he gave me money for household expenses, he always used up his own allowance before payday. So I saved as much as I could from my own freelancing income and added it to our budget. That's how we managed to live comfortably without any financial problems. I was thankful for his income when we first got married, which is why I didn't tell him that my freelancing income had grown. I didn't want to hurt his feelings by revealing how much I was actually making. Even if I felt like we might have spent too much, our lifestyle hadn't changed. I realized my income had probably increased and wondered if my husband didn't fully understand his own finances. I was surprised by his excitement about building a new house, and I didn't know how to stop him. "What kind of house are you thinking of?" I asked, trying to find a way to build something affordable while considering his preferences. But he kept adding more and more features. "If we want to include all of these, the house will be very expensive," I said. "It's not a big deal. It's a once-in-a-lifetime purchase, and my income should cover it, right?" he replied. I was puzzled about how he came to that conclusion. I regretted not telling him about my increased income and decided it was time to do so to help him understand. "Derek, about the household expenses, I actually contribute a significant amount from my income too," I said. For some reason, he didn't believe me. "Come on, don't be so slow about this." "I'm not lying," I insisted. I wanted us to buy a more affordable house, but my husband didn't listen. He used his salary to take out a loan for a house that was stretching our budget. At first, I thought we were managing our money well, but over time, his spending got out of control. He started buying expensive clothes and watches and went out drinking every night with his colleagues. Even though he worked extra hours to cover these costs, his spending was hard to ignore. Despite all this, he was determined to build a house, and eventually he managed to do it. "Wow, this is a really nice house," I said. "A house is a clear sign of success, isn't it?" he said. He was right. The new house is amazing. It's spacious, beautiful, and comfortable. My workroom is bigger now, so I can fit a large desk and work more comfortably. This has made me more productive, and I'm thankful for that. But I'm still anxious about our monthly mortgage payments. My husband doesn't seem to understand that we're paying off a long-term loan every month. The house is in his name, but he tends to overspend, so his account is often empty. Because of this, I have to transfer my income into his account just to cover the mortgage. I'm getting frustrated with him, so one day, I decided to talk about it. "Don't you think you've been spending too much lately?" I asked. "I need you to think about things like the mortgage for the house," I said. My husband frowned and replied, "What are you talking about? We've been living normally since we bought the house." "If that's the case, then there's no problem. You're just stressing over small details. And isn't it because you manage your money poorly that you're short? That's not my issue. What? Wait a minute. I'm always trying to save money from the daily expenses with the money you give me, and I'm also using my own earnings to cover the mortgage and other costs. So please don't talk to me like that. What's your problem? Besides, the amount you're contributing isn't that much, so don't act like it's a big deal. The one who earns the most is the best, and that's me. Don't try to give me advice, my husband said, trying to shut me down. I was shocked by how my husband had changed. He used to be kind and caring, but now our relationship felt strained. We barely talked, and sometimes we didn't even greet each other. He worked overtime more than ever and came home late at night. I started to question if it was okay to continue living like this. We were just coexisting under one roof without meaningful conversations. Maybe it would be better to get a divorce. But if there was a chance to fix things, I wanted to try. After thinking it over, I decided to take the first step and reach out to him. But my efforts were crushed when I saw him in town one day. I had gone out to buy a birthday gift for a friend. It was a weekday, so my husband should have been at work. But instead, I saw him in town, dressed casually, walking with a young woman I didn't recognize. I was stunned and immediately thought he might be having an affair. To find out the truth, I hired a private investigator. After about 3 weeks, I got the results and went to the detective agency. It turned out my husband was indeed having an affair. The woman was his colleague, and their relationship had been going on for about 2 years. I finally understood why my husband had started spending so much and coming home late. It was because he was having an affair. I was furious, especially after all the verbal abuse he had directed at me. He was the one being unfaithful. I felt foolish for trying to protect his feelings and our marriage. I decided to stop doubting and take action right away. When I rushed home, my husband was sitting on the sofa watching sports. I stood in front of the TV and laid out the evidence of his affair in front of him. "Explain this," I demanded. At first he looked surprised, but his expression quickly changed. "Oh, that's Meg. She's my new wife." "New wife? What are you talking about?" "Well, now that you know, there's no point in hiding it. Unfortunately, you're no longer needed." "What are you saying?" "Frankly, I don't need you in my life anymore. But Meg doesn't want to do housework, so you can stay and take care of that for her." "What? Are you out of your mind? I would never do that." When I said that, my husband's face turned red with anger. "I'm the breadwinner here, so my rules are final. If he can't follow them, then it's divorce." Even though he was having an affair, he was still trying to control me. Why should I listen to him? "Fine, let's get a divorce." "Huh? You had an affair, so we can't stay married. Let's just get a divorce." He was surprised but soon agreed. "Okay, but don't come crying to me later. But you need to help me change the names on the utility bills and the car loans we just took out." I changed all the loans into my husband's name and got divorced. He probably thought it was over, but for me, it was just the beginning. You should realize how much I supported you. The day after the divorce was finalized, I was already settling into my new apartment. Then, I got a bunch of calls from my ex-husband. Since he hadn't paid me any compensation yet, I hadn't blocked his number. When I answered, he sounded flustered and said he needed to talk. I reluctantly agreed to meet him at a cafe, but he showed up with his mistress. "Well, you two seem to be getting along. What's this about? Why didn't you tell me?" I asked. He looked upset and said, "Every month I'm getting hit with a huge amount for loans. Why are the food expenses, car loans, utilities, and everything else so high? What are you trying to do by leaving all that on me? I divorced you and moved out, so it's only fair." "I don't have any other intentions," I replied. "Shut up. This is fraud. I'll sue you," he said. My ex-husband and his mistress glared at me, holding each other's arms. They both blamed me, but I couldn't accept their absurd accusations. "It's your fault for not understanding the situation. I showed you the documents, didn't I? The house loan was in your name, so it's only fair you pay it. I've been transferring the necessary money into your account. How could you, with your small income, cover all that?" As someone with a poor grasp of the situation, I explained calmly. I was working as a freelance engineer and making around $200,000 a year. "Is that true?" he asked, clearly shocked by how much I was earning compared to him. It didn't matter if he was surprised or not. What mattered was that I hadn't received proper compensation yet, so I planned to pursue it through a lawyer. "Are you trying to swindle money from us?" he demanded. I'm just claiming what's rightfully mine. I'll also be making claims against your mistress, I said. I received compensation from both of them for the emotional distress they had caused me. My ex-husband's mistress was devastated to find out he wasn't using his own money to pay for the loan. The next day, she disappeared from his life. Their affair ended just like any other when the money ran out. Now my ex-husband lives a lonely life, struggling to pay off his loan and make ends meet while commuting between work and home. He's facing the consequences he deserves, but he couldn't handle it and started spreading news about his affair at work. His mistress claimed he was abusing her, leading to a messy quarrel. Since neither of them was credible, no one believed their claims. His financial troubles worsened, and he was eventually demoted and received a pay cut due to his inability to focus on work because of his mounting debts. It's all his own fault, and frankly, he brought it on himself. As for me, I was nervous at first when I moved into my new high-rise apartment, but now I'm enjoying my life here. I'm not interested in marriage or romance for a while, but that doesn't mean I want to be alone forever. If I meet someone in the future, I hope we can build a supportive relationship based on what I've learned from this experience. For now, I'm focusing on working hard and making the most of my time for myself.